You can know hundreds of grammar rules and still freeze when someone asks you a simple question. You can understand English videos, recognize thousands of words, read books, complete exercises, and even score well on tests. Yet the moment you need to speak, something strange happens. Your mind becomes crowded. You start searching for the correct tense. You wonder if the sentence should begin with I have, I had, or I was. You hear your own voice and suddenly become your own examiner. Before one sentence leaves your mouth, you have already judged it 3 times. And then you look at someone who seems less advanced than you. Their grammar is not perfect. Their vocabulary is not extraordinary. They make mistakes, but they speak, they respond, they continue, they communicate. That difference can be painful because it makes you ask a dangerous question. Maybe I am just not good at English. No, that is not the real problem. The real problem is that you have trained English as knowledge, but you have not trained it enough as a reflex. Knowing English and using English are not the same skill. Think about learning to drive. You can read a book about driving. You can memorize traffic rules. You can learn what every pedal does. Understand the theory of turning, braking, parking, and changing lanes. But when you sit behind the wheel for the first time, all that knowledge suddenly feels slow. You have to think about everything. Mirror, brake, gear, steering, distance, speed. Your mind is overloaded because the knowledge has not yet become automatic. But after enough real practice, you stop thinking about every tiny movement. Your hands know what to do. Your eyes know where to look. Your body responds before you finish explaining the rule to yourself. Speaking English works the same way. The goal is not to forget grammar. Grammar matters. Vocabulary matters. Pronunciation matters. But there comes a point when studying more rules gives you less improvement than training faster access to what you already know. You do not need to become a walking grammar book. You need to become a person who can reach English quickly. That is the missing skill. And once you understand how to train it, English stops feeling like a school subject you must assemble word by word. It starts becoming something you can actually use. Point 1. Stop confusing knowledge with ability. One of the biggest mistakes English learners make is believing that if they know something, they should automatically be able to use it. But the brain does not work that way. Recognition is easier than production. When you see the word appointment, you may understand it immediately. When you hear someone say, I have an appointment at 3, you understand the sentence. But if someone suddenly asks you, why are you leaving work early? You may struggle to produce the same word. You know it, but you cannot reach it quickly enough. This is why many learners say, I know this word, but I forgot it. Most of the time, you did not truly forget it. The word is still in your memory. The problem is access. Imagine a huge library. The book you need is inside. You know it is there, but the shelves are disorganized, the lights are dim, and you do not know exactly where to find it. Technically, you own the book. Practically, you cannot use it when you need it. That is what happens when your English knowledge is passive. You have stored information, but you have not built enough fast pathways to retrieve it. Traditional studying often strengthens recognition. You read explanations, you highlight words, you answer multiple choice questions. You look at a grammar rule and think, yes, I understand. Understanding feels satisfying, but fluency demands something more uncomfortable. It demands retrieval. You need to practice pulling language out of your mind without being shown the answer first. There is a massive difference between reading, I've been working here for 5 years, and being asked, how long have you worked here? And producing the answer yourself within 2 seconds. That tiny delay reveals everything. So stop measuring your English only by what you understand. Start measuring it by what you can produce. Take a topic as simple as your morning routine. Close the book. Put away your notes. Do not prepare. Speak for 60 seconds. What time do you wake up? What do you do first? What do you eat? How do you travel to work or school? What do you usually think about in the morning? Now you will see your real speaking level. Perhaps you know the word usually, but you never use it. Maybe you understand the present simple perfectly, yet you hesitate every time you form a sentence. Maybe you know 10 synonyms for tired, but in conversation, your mind only gives you very tired. Good. That is useful information. Fluency improves when you stop being embarrassed by the gap and start training the gap. Your goal is not to impress yourself with how much English you have studied. Your goal is to make your English available when life asks for it. You need to move language from I recognize this to I can produce this. That happens through active recall. Instead of reading the same vocabulary list 5 times, look away and try to say the words from memory. Instead of watching another explanation of the past tense, tell the story of what you did yesterday. Instead of learning 20 phrases for ordering food, pretend you are standing at a restaurant and speak the whole interaction aloud. Instead of asking, "Do I understand this lesson?" ask, "Can I use this without looking?" That one question changes the way you learn. There is another truth you need to accept. Your speaking ability will usually be lower than your understanding ability. That is normal. You may understand an advanced podcast and still speak in simple sentences. This does not mean the podcast is useless or that you are failing. It simply means comprehension and production develop at different speeds. But if you only keep feeding comprehension and never train production, the gap becomes enormous. Then you become the learner who understands everything and says almost nothing. Do not let that happen. Every piece of English you learn should eventually be forced into action. If you learn the phrase "it depends on," use it 5 times today. It depends on the weather. It depends on how much time I have. It depends on the price. It depends on the situation. It depends on what they decide. Now the phrase is no longer something you merely recognize. You are teaching your brain how to reach it. This is what real progress looks like. Not more pages, not more rules, faster access. You do not need to prove that you know English. You need to train your brain to deliver English when you need it. Point 2. Build phrases, not just words. If you want faster English reflexes, stop treating every word like an isolated object. Fluent speech is not usually built one word at a time. It is built in chunks. When someone says, "To be honest, I don't really think that's a good idea," they are not necessarily constructing every word from zero. Their brain has used combinations like "to be honest," "I don't really think," and "that's a good idea," hundreds or thousands of times. These groups become units. That is why they come out quickly. Many learners study vocabulary like this: decision, opportunity, responsible, experience, probably. These words are useful, but single words do not teach your mouth what to do with them. Instead, learn, make a decision, a great opportunity, be responsible for. From my experience, I'll probably. Do you hear the difference? The second group is closer to real speech. Your brain does not need to build the phrase from separate pieces because part of the work has already been done. This is one of the most powerful shortcuts in speaking practice. Suppose you learn the word prefer. You can memorize the definition, or you can train. I prefer, I'd prefer to. I usually prefer, I prefer this because. Which one do you prefer? Now prefer has a home. It has roads connected to it. And when conversation moves quickly, those roads matter. The learner who knows 5,000 isolated words may speak more slowly than the learner who knows 3,000 words inside useful patterns. Why? Because speech is not a vocabulary competition. It is a retrieval competition. You need combinations that are ready. Think about how often English uses predictable structures. I'm not sure if. The reason is that one of the things I I used to. I'm trying to. What I mean is, it sounds like. The problem is, as far as I know, if I had to choose, these are not fancy expressions. They are bridges. They keep your speech moving while your brain decides what comes next. And this is crucial because many learners freeze, not because they have nothing to say, but because they do not have enough bridges. They know the destination, but cannot cross the gap. So begin collecting high-frequency phrases that match your real life. If you work in an office, learn phrases you repeatedly need. I'll send it to you. I'm still working on it. Could you clarify that? I'll get back to you. We need to discuss this. If you are a student, I didn't understand this part. Could you explain it again? I think the answer is, I'm not completely sure. When is the deadline? If you travel, I'd like to check in. Is this seat available? How long does it take? Could you show me where? Is there another option? This is how you make English useful. And there is another step. Repeat the whole phrase aloud, not just silently. Your mouth needs memory too. If your brain knows a phrase, but your tongue has rarely said it, you will still hesitate. Say the phrase naturally. Say it slowly. Say it quickly. Say it with different endings. For example, I'm trying to improve my English. I'm trying to save money. I'm trying to wake up earlier. I'm trying to understand what happened. I'm trying to make a better decision. Notice what you are doing. You are not memorizing 5 separate sentences. You are strengthening one reusable structure. That structure becomes a speaking reflex. This is how children learn enormous amounts of language without studying grammar charts. They hear patterns repeatedly. They imitate them. They reuse them. They begin to feel what sounds natural. As an adult learner, you have an advantage. You can use both understanding and repetition. You can notice the pattern consciously and then practice it until it becomes unconscious. That is the sweet spot. Do not make language learning harder than it needs to be. You do not need to invent every sentence from nothing. Borrow the shapes that English already uses. Then put your own meaning inside them. Your personality does not disappear because you use common phrases. It becomes easier to express because your brain is no longer fighting with structure every second. The strongest speakers are not always the people with the most complicated vocabulary. Often, they are the people who have mastered simple patterns so deeply that they can use them without hesitation. And that should be your goal, not complicated English. Available English. Point 3. Train your response speed. If you always give yourself unlimited time to answer, you are not training conversation. Real conversation moves. Someone asks you a question, and you need to respond. Not perfectly, not like a professor, just quickly enough to keep the interaction alive. This is where reflex training begins. You need to practice answering simple questions within 2 or 3 seconds. At first, this may feel uncomfortable. Good. That discomfort reveals the exact skill you need. Ask yourself, what did you eat today? What are you doing this weekend? What kind of movies do you like? Why are you learning English? What was the best part of your day? Then answer immediately. Do not search for the perfect sentence. Use the first correct sentence you can reach. I had eggs and bread. I'm staying home this weekend. I like mystery movies. I'm learning English for work. The best part was talking to my friend. Simple, fast, clear. Now expand. I had eggs and bread because I didn't have much time. I'm staying home this weekend because I need to finish some work. This is how fluent conversation is built. Response first, expansion second. Many learners reverse this. They try to create an impressive answer before opening their mouth. That is why silence wins. Your brain is trying to solve too many problems at once. What vocabulary should I use? Which tense? Is the pronunciation correct? Is this sentence interesting? Will they think my English is bad? By the time your brain finishes the meeting, the conversation has moved on. So simplify the task. Respond first. Improve later. You can train this alone. Create 20 common questions about your life. Put them on your phone. Ask them randomly. Give yourself 3 seconds to begin speaking. Do this every day. At first, you may repeat the same answers. That is fine. Repetition is not failure. Repetition is how speed is built. Athletes repeat the same movement thousands of times. Musicians play the same scales. Boxers practice the same combinations. Why should language be different? You are training coordination between thought, memory, and speech. The faster those systems work together, the more fluent you feel. Another powerful exercise is called rapid substitution. Take one pattern. I usually underscore before work. Now fill it quickly. I usually drink coffee before work. I usually check my phone before work. I usually take a shower before work. I usually eat something before work. Do not pause for 10 seconds between sentences. Keep moving. Then change the pattern. Yesterday I underscore. Yesterday I went shopping. Yesterday I called my brother. Yesterday I stayed home. Yesterday I watched a movie. Now your brain is learning to switch content while keeping the structure stable. That is reflex training. You can also practice opposite answers. Do you like cooking? Yes, I do. No, not really. Sometimes, but not every day. I used to, but I don't cook much anymore. One question, multiple pathways. This makes your English flexible. And here is something important. Speed does not mean speaking fast. Do not confuse the two. You do not need to race through sentences. You need to begin without excessive delay. A calm speaker who responds naturally is more fluent than a nervous speaker who rushes every word. The goal is reducing mental friction. You want the distance between idea and language to become shorter. At first, you may need 5 seconds, then 3, then 1. Eventually, simple English responses will feel almost immediate. That feeling is incredibly powerful because it changes your confidence. You stop entering every conversation with fear. You begin trusting your brain. And trust matters. When you trust that a sentence will come, you stop choking the sentence before it has a chance to appear. Point 4. Practice speaking before you feel ready. There is a trap that keeps intelligent learners stuck for years. They tell themselves, I will speak more when my English improves. But speaking is one of the things that makes your English improve. Waiting for confidence before practice is like waiting to become strong before entering the gym. It is backwards. You build confidence through evidence. Every time you successfully explain an idea, answer a question, survive a mistake, or continue after forgetting a word, your brain collects proof. I can do this. That proof is stronger than motivation. So stop protecting yourself from imperfect speaking. Imperfect speaking is the training ground. You need to become comfortable producing language that is good enough to communicate even when it is not perfect. This can be hard for learners who are naturally careful, intelligent, or perfectionistic. You want every sentence to represent your real ability. But conversation does not allow that level of control. Sometimes you will use a simpler word than you wanted. Sometimes you will forget an article. Sometimes you will pronounce something strangely. Sometimes you will realize after the conversation that you used the wrong tense. And life will continue. Nothing terrible will happen. In fact, if you keep speaking, your brain gets something valuable. Feedback. You notice what you could not say. You discover which words you actually need. You hear how other people express the same idea. You learn where your grammar breaks under pressure. This information is gold. Studying in silence cannot reveal all of it. Real output exposes real weaknesses. And that is exactly what you want. Suppose you try to explain your job for 2 minutes and repeatedly get stuck on the same idea. Now you know what to learn. Maybe you need the phrase responsible for. Maybe you need deal with customers. Maybe you need manage a team. Excellent. Now your learning has direction. Instead of studying random English, you are solving a real communication problem. This is why speaking practice becomes more powerful when it is personal. Talk about your real life, your work, your plans, your opinions, your family, your interests, your problems, your goals. The language connected to your life has a reason to stay in memory. You can practice alone if you do not have a partner. Do not underestimate self-talk. Describe what you are doing. I'm making tea. I need to reply to this message. I forgot to buy milk. I'm tired, but I still need to finish this. Then make it more advanced. The reason I'm tired is that I stayed up too late last night. I was going to go outside, but I changed my mind because it started raining. Now you are turning everyday life into speaking practice. You can also record yourself. This is uncomfortable for many people because hearing your own voice feels strange. But recording is one of the fastest ways to improve. Speak for 2 minutes. Listen once. Do not attack yourself. Listen like a coach. Where did you stop? Which words did you repeat? Which sentences felt difficult? Which pronunciation problem kept appearing? Then record the same topic again. The second version will almost always be better. That improvement teaches you something important. Your first attempt is not your final ability. Too many learners judge themselves based on the first attempt. They speak badly once and say, "My English is terrible." No, you are simply seeing the untrained version of the skill. Practice changes performance. Give yourself repetitions. You deserve repetitions. You would never expect someone to play a difficult song perfectly the first time. So why do you demand perfect speech from yourself while still learning? Your mistakes are not evidence that you should stop. They are evidence that you are finally using the language. Point 5. Learn to keep speaking when the perfect word disappears. One of the greatest differences between hesitant learners and confident speakers is not vocabulary size. It is recovery skill. What happens when you forget a word? Many learners stop. Their entire sentence collapses because one word is missing. But strong communicators keep moving. They explain around the word. They simplify. They describe. They replace. They ask. This skill is called circumlocution, but the name does not matter. The habit matters. Suppose you forget the word umbrella. Do you stop the conversation? No. You say, the thing you use when it rains. The other person says, umbrella. Conversation continues. Suppose you forget receipt. You say, the paper they give you after you pay. Suppose you forget charger. The thing I use to give my phone battery power. Is that elegant English? Not always. Is it successful communication? Absolutely. And that success keeps your brain calm. You need to train the belief that forgetting one word is not an emergency. It is a problem you can solve. This changes everything, because fear of forgetting often causes more forgetting. When you panic, your working memory becomes less efficient. You start searching harder, and the word moves further away. But when you stay relaxed and use another route, language keeps flowing. So practice paraphrasing on purpose. Take 10 everyday words. Pretend you do not know them. Explain them in English. Refrigerator, a machine in the kitchen that keeps food cold. Dentist, a person who takes care of your teeth. Elevator, something that takes people up and down inside a building. This exercise teaches flexibility. Another strategy is to collect rescue phrases. What I'm trying to say is, I don't know the exact word, but it's something like, how can I explain this? It's the thing that, let me say that another way. These phrases are powerful because they give your brain time without creating dead silence. They also make you sound more natural. Native speakers use repair language too. People change sentences halfway through. They forget words, they correct themselves. They say, "What's the word?" They restart. Real speech is messy. You have been comparing your imperfect live English with polished textbook English. That comparison is unfair. Conversation is not an exam paper. It is a moving process. The goal is not zero mistakes. The goal is successful movement. Imagine two learners. The first knows more grammar, but stops every time something goes wrong. The second has simpler English, but knows how to keep going. Who will have more successful conversations? The second learner. And after a year, who will probably improve faster? Again, the second learner, because they are getting more real repetitions. This is why resilience is part of fluency. You need the emotional ability to survive an imperfect sentence. You need to continue after a mistake. You need to laugh sometimes. You need to say, "That came out wrong. Let me try again." Then try again. Your English does not need to be fragile. It needs to be adaptable. A flexible speaker can survive with fewer words. A rigid speaker can struggle with thousands. So every time you forget something, do not see a wall. See a detour. There is almost always another way to say what you mean. And every time you find that other way, you become more fluent. Point 6. Turn English into a daily reflex, not an occasional performance. You will not build automatic English by using it once a week. Reflexes grow through frequency. This does not mean you need 3 hours every day. It means English needs to appear often enough that your brain stops treating it like a rare event. 10 focused minutes every day can be more powerful than one exhausting session on Sunday. Why? Because the brain strengthens pathways through repeated activation. If you want faster speaking, activate speaking often. Make English part of ordinary moments. When you wake up, think one sentence in English. "I didn't sleep enough." When you look outside, "It looks cloudy today." When you make a plan, "I need to finish this before lunch." When something annoys you, "This is taking longer than I expected." When you are excited, "I've been waiting for this all week." These tiny moments matter. They teach your brain that English is not only for lessons. English is a tool for thought. You can build a simple daily reflex routine. Spend 2 minutes answering rapid questions. Spend 2 minutes repeating useful phrase patterns. Spend 2 minutes describing what happened yesterday. Spend 2 minutes speaking about your plans. Spend 2 minutes explaining one opinion. That is 10 minutes. No complicated system, no expensive course, no perfect environment. But the key is intensity. During those 10 minutes, speak. Do not spend 8 minutes preparing to speak and 2 minutes speaking. The skill you practice is the skill you improve. If you want stronger speaking reflexes, your mouth must participate. You should also repeat topics. Learners sometimes think repetition means they are not progressing. The opposite is often true. Tell the same story today and tomorrow. Explain the same idea 3 times. You will notice something beautiful. The second time, you hesitate less. The third time, you add more detail. Words that were difficult begin appearing naturally. Sentences become smoother. This is automation happening in front of you. You are taking a difficult pathway and making it easier. And when it becomes easy, you free mental space for something higher. Now, instead of thinking about grammar, you can think about meaning. Instead of searching for every word, you can listen to the other person. Instead of controlling every sentence, you can express emotion. That is when English starts feeling alive. But there is one final mindset shift you need. Stop asking, "When will I finally become fluent?" That question can make you feel as if fluency is a place far away and you are standing outside the gate. Ask a better question. What English reflex can I strengthen today? Can you answer 5 questions faster? Can you use one phrase naturally? Can you tell one story without stopping? Can you recover after forgetting a word? Can you speak for 2 minutes without translating every sentence? Those are real victories. Fluency is built from thousands of small moments when English becomes slightly easier to access. One phrase, one response, one conversation, one recovery, one repetition, then another and another. There may come a day when someone speaks to you in English and you answer without thinking. You will finish the sentence and suddenly realize something. You did not translate. You did not check a grammar rule. You did not build the sentence piece by piece. It simply came. That moment will feel almost magical, but it will not be magic. It will be training. It will be the result of all those ordinary repetitions that nobody saw. The questions you answered alone, the phrases you repeated, the recordings you made, the mistakes you survived, the words you forgot and explained another way, the days you practiced even when your English felt slow. That is how knowledge becomes ability. So if you have spent years learning English and still feel frustrated when you speak, do not assume you need another mountain of grammar. Perhaps you already know far more than you can currently access. Your next level may not require more information. It may require faster retrieval, stronger patterns, more speaking, more repetition, more courage to continue before the sentence feels perfect. You do not need to know every word in English. You do not need to speak without mistakes. You do not need to sound like somebody else. You need to make the English you already have more available. Train it until the phrase comes faster. Train it until the question no longer scares you. Train it until forgetting one word does not stop you. Train it until your brain begins choosing English before translation. Train it until speaking becomes less of a performance and more of a response. Because the missing skill between knowing English and speaking it is not intelligence. It is not talent. It is not perfect grammar. It is automatic access, and automatic access can be trained. So stop collecting English only inside notebooks. Put it in your mouth. Put it in your thoughts. Put it in your mornings. Put it in your mistakes. Put it in your ordinary life. And one day you will realize that English is no longer something you are trying to remember. The transformation begins when you stop treating hesitation as a personality trait. Saying, "I am a slow speaker," sounds harmless. But if you repeat it enough, it becomes an identity. A better sentence is, "My retrieval speed is still developing." That statement is accurate and, more importantly, trainable. You are not describing who you are forever. You are describing a skill that can change. Notice how often your first language appears automatically. You do not wake up and revise grammar before asking for water. You do not search your memory for the correct sentence pattern before telling a friend you are tired. Years of exposure and use have turned thousands of patterns into reflexes. English can move in the same direction. It may never have exactly the same depth as your first language, and it does not need to. Your goal is enough automaticity that ordinary communication stops feeling like mental mathematics. A useful test is to separate study time from performance time. During study time, slow down. Analyze grammar. Check pronunciation. Look up better vocabulary. During performance time, do the opposite. Keep moving. Use what you have. Do not interrupt every sentence to repair it. This teaches your brain 2 different modes, one for improving accuracy and one for maintaining communication. Strong speakers need both. Many learners accidentally practice hesitation. They ask themselves a question, wait 10 seconds, mentally translate, silently rehearse, correct the sentence, and only then speak. Repeat that process every day, and you become extremely skilled at slow preparation. If you want faster reflexes, practice the behavior you want to own. Hear the question, start with a simple phrase, and let the rest of the answer develop while you are speaking. Another important shift is learning to tolerate ordinary language. Learners often reject simple sentences because they sound too basic. They think, I know advanced English, I should say something better. But simple does not mean weak. I don't agree because is powerful English. I'm not sure yet is useful English. That's not what I meant, can save a conversation. Fluency is built on thousands of simple sentences used at the right moment. When you repeatedly use basic language successfully, you create a stable foundation. Advanced language can then sit on top of it. Without that foundation, you may know impressive expressions, but still struggle to order food, answer a colleague, or explain why you are late. Build the reflex first, decorate it later. Your ears also affect your speaking reflexes. If you repeatedly listen to natural phrases, your brain begins predicting what comes next. You hear, would you mind, and expect a request. You hear, the thing is, and expect an explanation. You hear, I was about to, and expect an unfinished action. This prediction reduces processing time. Good listening practice is therefore not separate from speaking. It feeds the patterns your mouth will later use. But do not listen passively forever. Pause the audio, repeat the sentence, change one part, make it yours. If the speaker says, I was about to call you, say, I was about to leave, I was about to eat, I was about to send the email. One sentence becomes a reusable engine. You can also use timed storytelling. Choose a small event from your day and tell it in 60 seconds. The next day, tell it again in 45 seconds without losing the important meaning. This forces your brain to select language more efficiently. Then tell the same story slowly with more detail. Fast and slow practice train different strengths. Speed teaches access, while slow practice teaches control. Do not underestimate the power of familiar topics. If every practice session uses a completely new subject, your brain is always solving both the content problem and the language problem. Repeating familiar topics removes one difficulty. You already know what you want to say, so more attention can go toward expression. That is why talking about your own life is such effective training. Another trap is believing that native speakers never search for words. They do. They hesitate. They replace words. They abandon sentences. The difference is that they usually possess many automatic repair strategies. They say, anyway, what I mean is, let me put it another way, and continue. Learn those strategies and your speech immediately becomes more durable. Your goal should not be to eliminate every pause. Natural speech has pauses. Your goal is to eliminate the panic attached to pauses. A short silence can be completely normal. The problem begins when the silence turns into self-judgment. The moment you think, I'm failing again, your attention leaves the conversation and turns inward. Now you are not speaking with another person. You are fighting with yourself. Bring your attention back to meaning. What do you actually want the listener to understand? That question is more useful than, was my grammar perfect? Communication is an act of connection. Grammar supports the message, but the message is the reason grammar exists. There is a practical rule that can save you. Never stop a useful conversation for a small mistake. If the listener understands you, continue. Later, during study time, review the mistake. This protects fluency without abandoning accuracy. You are not choosing one or the other. You are choosing the right moment for each. You can create your own reflex bank. Write down 50 sentences you genuinely use in life. Not sentences from a random textbook, your sentences. I'll call you later. I haven't decided yet. I'm running late. I didn't expect that. I need a little more time. Practice them until they require almost no thought. Then build variations around them. Those 50 sentences can produce hundreds of real interactions. Frequency beats intensity when building automaticity. A person who speaks for 15 minutes every day often develops faster access than someone who studies for 3 hours once a week. The reason is simple. Your brain receives more frequent reminders that English must remain available. Each daily session reactivates the pathway before it becomes cold. Use empty moments. Walking, showering, driving alone, waiting in a line. You do not need to turn every second of life into study, but you can use some of these moments to describe, predict, explain, or recall in English. The more normal English feels inside ordinary life, the less dramatic it feels during conversation. And remember that speed grows gradually. You may practice for a week and still hesitate. That does not mean nothing is happening. The brain often improves beneath the level of conscious awareness. Then one day a phrase appears faster. A question feels easier. You complete a story with fewer stops. These are signs that the pathway is strengthening. Keep collecting those signs. Do not measure yourself only against fluent speakers. Compare today's response with last month's response. Did you begin faster? Did you recover better? Did you translate less? Did you use a phrase without planning it? That is measurable progress. You are not trying to become a perfect English machine. You are trying to become a flexible human communicator. That is a much better goal. There is also a deep psychological advantage to reflex training. It reduces the amount of attention you must spend on form. Human attention is limited. If 80% of your attention is busy checking grammar, very little remains for listening, emotion, humor, eye contact, and ideas. Automatic patterns free attention. That is why a sentence you have used 50 times feels easier than a sentence you are inventing for the first time, even if both are grammatically simple. This is similar to typing. A beginner looks at every key. An experienced typist thinks about the message. The fingers handle much of the mechanics automatically. Speaking develops the same way. At first you think about every word. Later, familiar structures run in the background, while your conscious mind focuses on meaning. So when you choose what to practice, prioritize high-frequency structures. Ask yourself, what do I say again and again in real life? Practice those first. If you regularly explain opinions, train I think, I don't think, in my experience, from my point of view, and the main reason is. If you work with people, train requests, updates, clarifications, and polite disagreement. If you are preparing for travel, train questions about directions, timing, prices, bookings, and problems. This creates what we might call personal fluency. You become fast in the language you actually need. That is more useful than being equally familiar with thousands of expressions you may never say. And once personal fluency becomes strong, expanding your range is easier because your speaking system already knows how to operate under pressure. You can also practice shadowing, but use it carefully. Do not simply chase the speaker's speed. Choose a short sentence. Listen. Pause. Repeat with the same rhythm. Then say it again without audio. Finally, change the sentence slightly. Shadowing becomes powerful when imitation turns into independent use. For example, here. I didn't realize how difficult it would be. Repeat it, then change it. I didn't realize how expensive it would be. I didn't realize how long it would take. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy it. Now you are not copying. You are building a pattern. This is how reflexes grow from input into output. One final warning. Do not keep changing methods every 3 days. Reflexes need repetition, and repetition can feel boring before it becomes powerful. If you constantly search for a new technique, you may stay excited while remaining untrained. Choose a few exercises that force real speaking and repeat them long enough to see change. A simple system is enough. Rapid questions, phrase variation, 1-minute speaking, retelling, and repair practice. Do those consistently. Track what becomes easier. Add difficulty slowly. There is no secret grammar lesson that suddenly unlocks your mouth. The unlock happens when what you already know becomes fast enough to use. It has become something you can use